Vanquish Soul is here, and with the new Yugioh that we got way too early, this is actually going to be a better deck than many expected. So right here we have the list, and you will see some really weird card ratios and so forth, and that's because of certain limitations we have, as well as the meta being a little bit different than what one may expect. Now I will say in the extra deck we actually have a lot of room, so I gave you options in here, but a bunch of these cards are not required. So don't be like, oh my god, Baron, blah, blah, blah. Like a bunch of these cards are not required, but we will go over them very shortly. So first of all, we have triple Kurikara. Now normally I hate this card inside the main deck in Master Duel because it's best of one, and going second it's just a dead brick, right? However, the best deck right now is Pearly, and this card destroys Pearly. But why can this deck actually run it despite it being a brick in every other situation? It's because this deck actually relies on having particular attributes in your hand, and those attributes are fire, earth, and dark. Now if you look closely, Kurikara is a fire. So while in many decks this is going first a complete brick, in this deck it is actually just a fire for your fire condition, and that way some of your combos actually work out better. So again, normally most of my decks I cannot afford to play Kurikara in my opinion, even though Pearly is so strong, but in this deck, because we need a fire anyway, I will gladly main deck that shit. Next we have triple Maxi, because Maxi is broken, and it's even better in this deck, weird to say, I know, because it's an earth. So where in the TCG some people are playing like Ghost Bell whenever Ghost Bell doesn't even feel that great just to get that earth attribute, in here we can just use Maxi. It's also an earth. I mean, we're giving our opponent the knowledge that we have it, but who cares? Next we have triple Ash. Again, really good against Maxi, but it's also a fire, so sometimes you will hold it in your hand just to use that fire attribute and gain even more value. Now we have Rice Heart. Now Rice Heart is kind of a brick. However, remember, it is a fire and it is searchable by Fenrir, which is earth. So Fenrir is actually an incredible part of the engine in this deck because it allows you to just get the correct attributes no matter what. Either it's gonna add itself and then you have the earth, or it's gonna add Rice Heart and then you have the fire. So you can kind of mix and match depending on what you need for your effect. Now the first Vanquish Soul card that we will finally go over, we have Vanquish Soul Raisin. So again, if you look here, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. So if you only have a fire, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, but if you have a fire and a dark, it can destroy all monsters in this card's column. So that's why it's very important that you have those different attributes, because you always want to be able to use the full power of these cards. Next we have this card. Now not that many people play Pantera, but I think it's still pretty cool. It's an earth, it's also normal summonable, works together with some of your other cards, also a level 4 which can weirdly come up with some of your Xyz plays and so forth. And again, earth, so this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Earth and fire destroy all spells and traps in this card's column. Now I will say, if you want to have more consistency in the deck, you could technically cut Pantera for another Pot of Prosperity. You can very easily put in a Pot of Prosperity, but the issue with Pot of Prosperity, in my opinion, in this deck is that you cannot draw, and then so your Borger boy right here who says dark, draw one card, then cannot resolve. Now of course you can do stuff in your opponent's turn, that's all good. That's just like something. Now of course we've seen YCS topping lists for Vanquish Soul with Pot of Prosperity, and we've also seen very good Vanquish Soul lists without Pot of Prosperity, so up to you. Some people are even playing Pot of Desires, so you can also play that if you want some more consistency, but sometimes you will be banishing your important stuff. Kind of got to consider there. But so Pantera is definitely one of those like flex slots that you could cut if you want. Next we have Mad Love right here. So once again, two effects: dark, phase up monster your opponent controls loses power; dark and earth, return a monster in your opponent's field back to the hand. The one with the lowest defense, but usually if you're smart about it, you can kind of just make it to where Mad Love is always bouncing what you want, because sometimes your opponent is gonna, you know, only have one monster on field and so forth. So Mad Love, really, really good card. It also searches, like don't forget, it's not just these two effects. Like if it's normal summoned, it adds a Vanquish Soul spell or trap. Raisin, it adds a non-warrior and so forth. Like all of these cards are part of the combo. So yeah, Yugioh, this boy right here changes a lot. So right here is that it has fire, change the battle position of one monster on the field, and 2 fire, add a Vanquish Soul card from your deck to your hand. This is crazy, especially because you can do this on both turns. So as long as this boy is on your board, you're just, it's your turn plus, it's my turn plus, it's your turn plus, it's my turn plus. That is insane. And 2 fire might seem hard, but again, that's why we're playing that triple Kurikara. We have the triple Ash, we have the Rice Heart. Usually we won't have the issue of not having enough fires. And also again, if you're playing doubles and so forth, it only gets easier. But this card at 3 is a must. Like I know people play 1 or they play 2 or something like that, but this card just changes the game for Vanquish Soul in my opinion. Need to play 3. Then we have Shifter. Yeah, this is one of the few decks decks that can actually play this toxic ass card. Now against Kashtira, of course, you're not going to be happy that you used Shifter, but against Pearly, you're going to be extremely happy that you used Shifter. It is very hard for Pearly to make a Noir under Shifter when they go first. Now, if you're going first and they can make happy, then it'll be very easy for them to make a Noir. But if they go first, which is what usually is going to be the problem, of course, Shifter them, and I mean, they cannot do delicious stuff. They don't have Pearly Yeep from Noir yet. Like, it's very hard for them to actually get to Noir under Shifter, and the basic Noirless boards are very easy for you. Then we have 2 Fenrir, so of course it's only at 2, that's why we only play 2. I would love to have 3 Fenrir for this deck, because again, this card, while being an incredible board breaker, is also perfect for this deck's engine. The Earth attribute, the Fire attribute by searching Rise Heart, it just helps so much. And also very important about this card can also put in a Rise Heart on top of your board. You have Fenrir that's a 7. You can special Rise Heart that becomes a 7. Do it at the end of the combo, of course, after you've already Link Summoned. And then you also have Heavy Borger that's a 7. So you can very easily make fucking a Rise Heart, the most broken card in Yu-Gi-Oh, inside Vanquish Soul. Now, of course, you're not always going to do that, but also, if your opponent activated Shangri-Ira, if they're the Kashtira player, you can just go special summon Fenrir, add Rise Heart, put in a Rise Heart on top. Get fucked. So that's another thing you can do. And then we have triple Heavy Borger. So this card, together with Caesar, is what's going to allow this deck to really dodge Imperms and so forth, because, like, you might normal summon Raisin, activate effect, they go Imperm, you go up, chain like Borger or one of the other boys, dodge, and so forth. So you can really get around targeting that way. And once again, to affect Dark, draw a card, Earth and Fire inflict damage. Now, you might think, like, Earth and Fire inflict damage, I don't really care. You will actually notice that this deck often can OTK just from, like, battle damage. Like, you might deal not enough, and then your main phase 2, you go, like, deal damage, and then you pass to your opponent, and then you go, deal damage again, Lamao, get fucked. Like, you are doing fake OTKs pretty often of just burn, which is something not a lot of people are appreciating about this deck. But again, so you want to have all the attributes, but usually, when you're not doing that OTKing, just the fact that you can draw for free is crazy. That's also why Pot of Prosperity can sometimes not feel great, because you're like, yeah, it's consistency, of course, Prosp is an insane card, but god, I wish I could right now be drawing of my Borger. But yeah, that being said, Prosp is great because you can also search going first for Tikaboo and going second for Kurikara, so maybe that's actually a stronger argument. Maybe you want to then cut Pantera for Prosperity. Up to you, we definitely have the extra deck space. Then we have our Caesar Velius. This card at 1 might be controversial. I kind of stole the one-off from Jake Quincy, very, very good player, and he's only playing 1, so I was like, you know what? Maybe we can get away with just 1. But if you get nervous from only 1 Caesar, you can cut Pantera maybe for that second Caesar, that's fine. But so again, this needs Earth, then it's unaffected, and then Earth, Fire, and Dark, destroy a card on the field, non-targeting. A very powerful form of removal, but it does require you to have the 3 attributes, which is once again why we are playing, you know, some of these weirder cards that maybe not everyone is happy with, but it's giving the attributes, and that changes everything. Now we have Reinforcement of the Army, because your best starter in the deck, and really your only solid 1-card starter, is Raisin. So being able to Rhoda for it, very awesome. Triple Tactics Talents, just a good going second card, or a good going first card if you get hand trapped. Then we have Stake Your Soul. This is the spell that makes it all possible. This is like the extender in the deck. This is also what makes a lot of 2-card combos and so forth. Then we have Durandal. So you can ignore everything on this. The only thing that matters is you can add 1 level 5 or lower Fire Warrior monster from your deck to your hand, then destroy this card. So you go like special summon Fenrir, add Rise Heart, equip Durandal to Fenrir, destroy Durandal, add Raisin, or something like that. You know, just the fact that this is a free searcher is absolutely crazy. It's basically an extra Rhoda for Fire Warriors, and our starter is a Fire Warrior. Good thing it's also a rare, so you don't have to spend even more UR material. Then we have 1 Raid Salt. Basically, this is another Fenrir. That's all it is. We don't have triple Fenrir, but we kind of have fake triple Fenrir by having 1 Raid Salt. And then we have 2 Called By because Maxi is broken. Now, the only thing, the issue, let's say, with Called By is that we are playing Shifter. So sometimes you will maybe Shifter your opponent, and then if they hand trap you, you can't even Call By it because there's nothing in the graveyard. That's the only kind of weird thing. But luckily, since we only play 2 Shifter and 2 Called By, you having both in your hand, and then your opponent having the hand trap that you can Call By, all colliding, it will happen sometimes, but not that often. Now, if you notice it happening too much for you and it's pissing you off, sure, change this. Maybe play Crossout. But the issue with Crossout is because we're not playing Imperm, we don't really have that many good Crossout targets. Now, sometimes you can dodge Imperm already, but still, sometimes having that feeling of, okay, luckily I can dodge, pretty cool. Also, Droll is something that can randomly hurt his deck because we are playing Raid Salt and Fenrir and Raisin and so forth. But since we're playing Shifter, often we cannot even be Drolled. So that's something to also keep in mind. Like, at least you don't need to Call By for the Droll. And some people are playing Droll because of Pearly. Pearly. But yeah, so this is kind of like flex-ish. You can kind of change this if you want. Maybe you want to play the Prosperity, maybe you want to play the Desires. Then we have Vanquish Soul Dust Devil. Now this card is hit and miss for me. Obviously this is like basically a big Book of Moon that doesn't target, which is very important. That's really good against Cash, and that's really good against Pearly because it doesn't target, so it gets around the street. But there's a lot of matchups where this is also just shite. So you kind of have to consider, like, if the meta changes, this card will probably be out. But right now, I think it's still good enough to play. Now we have this. This is basically a Call of the Haunted, but it can also be an add back. So this is just really solid. And then finally, we have There Can Be Only One. This card is just cringe, but Vanquish Soul is one of the few decks that plays under it so clean. And the meta right now is so focused on dying to this card that you just have to play it. Pearly has to do such awkward lines to out this. They can, don't get me wrong, like the Pearly and the Anima, Azalea, bada bim bada boom, they can, but the amount of resources they have to waste just to get rid of this thing is crazy. Labyrinth hates playing around this card. Dragonlink cannot play around this card. Kashtira can, because they just have to go special summon Fenrir, but the thing is, like, if this is on top of a board, the one special summon Fenrir is never fixing that. And now they cannot play with Fenrir and Unicorn on the same board at the same time. Like, good luck. So Tikaboo, insane against Pearly, against Lab, and against Dragonlink. Fine into a lot of other stuff, and Vanquish Soul plays under it like a champ. So in my opinion, it still has to be part of the deck, even though it's kind of awkward since we are a best of one format, and sometimes you'll draw this going second and just feel bad. But hey, that's the same with Kurikara. We basically have like very greedy types of non-engine, where like we have a greedy going first only card and a greedy going second only card, and it kind of balances each other out because the engine of this deck is small enough, and we needed the Kurikara for the attribute anyway. But so yeah, the only big flexes are like Durandal. Maybe you can turn that into Desires. This might be another King Valius. You might want to fit a Prosp. This may be conflicting with Shifter. Those are kind of the things you might want to reconsider depending on how you notice your testing go. Now for extra deck, Baron almost never comes up. The only way you're making this is if you go like special Fenrir, normal Ash, and make it, because you're in a weird game state where that comes up. So if you have another card you want to run, by all means run it. This card is not that great. This card will come up more if you're also playing Bell, which is what some people are trying to do inside Vanquish Soul. I don't even have it crafted. That's how shit this card is. Bell, you know, some metas this will be a good hand trap, but right now I don't feel it is. It's good into Lab for sure, but not into Pearly really. So that's why I'm not playing it. But if you are playing it, because it's an Earth attribute, it's also a level 3 tuner, and together with Fenrir or Borger, you can then make a Baron. So that's cute. It's not something I'm willing to do right now. Dweller right now, again, not really the format for Dweller. It's something that people play because rank 4s in this deck do come relatively easy. Not super easy, but relatively easy. So if you notice graveyard decks, or you're going second into one and you semi-broke their board and now you're going to put up a Dweller, like that is a possibility, but it's definitely like more of a flex. Now one engine I really want to play though is the Zodiac engine. I mean, Master Duel is the only format as far as I'm aware where Trident is legal, and you can literally just go like bada bim, bada boom, Trident, one of the craziest Xyz monsters ever, for free inside this deck. So I would still play that. Then we have Bagushka. Sometimes you just want to sit on the floodgate. We have Big Eye. Again, Big Eye is pretty easy because Fenrir, Riceheart, and Borger all going to be level 7. A Riceheart, like I said, we can make it in this deck. Fenrir, Riceheart, and Borger. It is going to require very specific hands though, but you can do it. It isn't a crazy boss monster, of course. And again, going second into Kashtira, if they have a Shangri-Ira on board, all of these Kashtira monsters are for free going to make you an Riceheart, which then goes into an easy Zeus. But yeah, we can also just use this for a big Zeus. Again, like this, plus this, plus this, plus monster under it. Zeus, that's a huge Zeus that you can make. And then we have Rock of the Vanquisher. Now, in theory, you can only play 2. Like, that's fine. But if you're going to make misplays, then with 3, you're going to be a bit safer. So you can play 3. I guess it's only an SR. Now, if you, for some reason, found a bunch of stuff to do in the extra deck, which I doubt, because this is not an extra deck, then you can definitely cut this down to 2. And then I just had some Charmers. I was like, well, we have a bunch of Earths, and also let's just grab our opponent's Fenrir, and then that Fenrir can get us Riceheart. Maybe that comes up. Dark, again, there's a lot of good Dark decks. Maybe you want to make a Dark, or maybe you want to make a Unicorn. But overall, these are going to be awkward because our Rock of the Vanquisher takes our main Link monster zone, and then it cannot be used as Link material, so it's going to be kind of awkward to properly Link summon. But it's still something that might come up, so I put them in. But again, these are definitely flex. You do not have to run these. In theory, you could play with 2 Rock of the Vanquisher as your only extra deck monsters. I do not recommend it, but you could. So this deck, extra deck, you know, kind of whatever. If you don't have the material for it, fuck it. You don't really need it. But of course, the more options options you have in a duel, the better. So that is the deck. It's pretty fun. Again, it's going to be, in my opinion, barely scratching that top 5. I think this card definitely changes things for it. The fact that we got this early is really cool, but it's not quite pearly. So up to you if you think it's worth the UR material, but don't underestimate it either. You know, I do think the coming of this card does help quite a bit. So that is all. Hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.